Welcome back to the House of the Wolf Horror. I hope everybody's had a great week. I'd like to take a second to welcome all new members here, both on YouTube and on Spotify, to the podcast. I hope you have a great night, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode about deep sea horror. The deepest place on Earth is not empty. People like to imagine the Mariana Trench as a barren void. A place too dark, too cold, and too pressurized for anything to survive. But life is stubborn. Life adapts. Life finds a way to fill every niche, no matter how hostile. I knew that. I spent my career studying extremophiles. I'd lectured about Hadal ecosystems. I'd written papers on the possibility of large unknown species living in the trench. But knowing something academically is different from seeing it. And seeing it is different from surviving it. The research vessel Argo floated over the Challenger Deep like a speck of dust over an abyss. The ocean was calm, a black mirror stretching to the horizon. The deck lights cast pale halos on the water. Below us, the Nearwood submersible descended into the trench. I watched the cable spool out, the winch groaning under the weight. The sub's beacon lights faded until it was swallowed by the dark. Telemetry stable, Dr. Sato said from the console. Descent nominal, pilot heart rate steady. Good, I said, though my stomach was tight. The pilot, Mark Reyes, was one of the best. Calm, methodical, unshakable. But no one had ever taken a manned sub to the trench floor for a full biological survey. The pressure at the bottom was over 1,000 atmospheres, enough to crush steel like chalk. Passing 5,000 meters, Mark reported. Halfway. The Argo's engines idled. The night was so quiet I could hear the hum of the deck lights. Then Mark said something that made the hairs on my arms rise. I'm getting tapping. Sato frowned. Define tapping. Like someone knocking on the hull. I stepped closer. Could be thermal contractions? Or sediment impacts, Sato added. But none of us believed that. How loud, I asked. Loud enough to feel it. The tapping continued for another 30 seconds, then stopped. We told ourselves it was nothing. We were wrong. At 10,900 meters, the nearer touchdown. Contact, Mark said. Silt plume rising. Stabilizing. The external cameras flickered to life. The trench floor looked like a lunar desert. Gray sediment, scattered rocks, drifting particles. Nothing moved. Beginning survey, Mark said. For the next hour, everything went perfectly. He collected amphipods, filmed snailfish, scanned thermal vents, the kind of data that would make careers. Then the tapping returned. Harder, faster. Jesus, Mark whispered, it's all around me. Sato's knuckles whitened. Mark, confirm hull integrity. No alarms, no pressure anomalies, but something is hitting the sub. Sediment collapse, I offered weakly. At this intensity? Sato shook her head, no. The tapping grew louder through the speakers, sharp, irregular, and frantic. Then Mark said, I see some movement. Where, I asked. Starboard side, something stirred up the silt. The camera panned. At first I saw nothing. Then the silt shifted. A cloud billowed. Something large moved beneath it. Not a shape, not a silhouette, just displacement. Like a shadow without a body. Mark, I said carefully, back away, slowly. He tried. The tapping became pounding. The sub lurched. What the hell was that? He shouted. Sato's consoles lit with warnings. We're reading lateral force on the hull. That's impossible, I said. There's nothing that big down there. The sub jerked again, harder. Mark screamed, and then the feed cut to static. For 10 seconds, no one spoke. Then chaos erupted. Reboot the link, check the tether, get the winch ready. I grabbed Sato's shoulder. What do we have? Nothing. Total signal loss. Backup channel? Static. Thermals offline. Sonar offline. It was as if the Nereid had been erased. Bring it up, I said. If the hull is compromised, bring it up. She nodded and hit the winch controls. The cable groaned as it began hauling the sub from the deepest place on Earth. Meters ticked upwards. 10,900, 10,800, 10,700. At 10,500 meters, the tapping returned. Not from the speakers, from the hull of the Argo. Everyone froze. The sound was faint but unmistakable. Soft, deliberate tapping on the steel beneath our feet, like knuckles, like something testing the metal. Sato whispered, "That's not possible." The tapping moved, from port to starboard, then toward the bow. Slow, searching. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Kill the deck lights," I said. She hesitated, then flipped the switch. Darkness swallowed the ship. The tapping stopped for a moment. Then something scraped along the hull. A long, slow drag of metal on metal. A sound that did not belong 11,000 meters above the trench floor. The winch continued hauling the sub. 10,000 meters, 9,500, 9,000. The scraping followed us, sometimes above, sometimes below, sometimes circling. But nothing broke the surface. Nothing showed on sonar or appeared in the water. It was as if the ocean itself had grown claws. At 6,000 meters, the scraping stopped. At 4,000, the tapping returned. Softer now, almost curious. At 2,000, the cable jerked violently. "Load spike," Sato shouted. "Something's pulling on the sub." "Compensate." She increased winch power. The motor whined. The cable shuddered, and then something slammed into the hull of the Argo so hard the deck vibrated. Crew member stumbled. Someone screamed. "What was that?" Sato gasped. I didn't answer, because I knew whatever had attacked the Nereid was now attacking us. The water around the ship churned. Not waves, not wind, but something moving beneath the surface. Something big. "Get us out of here," I yelled. The captain didn't argue. The engines roared to life. The Argo surged forward. The water behind us boiled. The tapping became pounding again, furious and relentless. Then the cable snapped. A sound like a gunshot cracked through the night. The winch spun wildly. The cable whipped across the deck, sparks flying. The Nereid, Mark, they were gone. We didn't stop moving for 2 hours. We finally slowed. We were 50 nautical miles from the trench. The ocean was calm again. No tapping or scraping, just silence. The crew gathered in the mess hall, pale and shaken. Sato sat across from me, staring at her hands. "It wasn't the current," she said. "No." "It wasn't a malfunction." "No." She looked up, eyes hollow. "So what was it?" I didn't answer, because I didn't want to say the word cryptid. A species unknown to science. A predator adapted to the Hadal zone. Something that had evolved in total darkness under crushing pressure with no natural enemies. Something that had never seen light. Something that had never been seen by anything that lived in light. Something that did not want to be disturbed. We filed the report. We omitted the taping. We omitted the scraping. We omitted the fact that something had struck a 3,000-ton research vessel. We said the cable failed and that we had lost the sub. We lied. Because the truth would have ended deep-sea exploration for decades. But at night, when the ship was quiet, I heard it again. A faint tapping, not on the hull, inside my cabin, behind the wall. Soft, patient, waiting. 3 weeks after we returned to Guam, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a waterproof data drive. No note, just a timestamp. The timestamp matched the moment the Nereid's feed cut out. My hand shook as I plugged it in. A single video file. I opened it up. Static. Then the image stabilized. It was the Nereid's interior. Mark's face was pale in the emergency lights. Something's outside, he whispered. I can't see it, but it's big. The sub rocked and he flinched. The tapping began. Loud, sharp, frantic. Mark turned towards the camera. If anyone finds this, don't come back here. Don't send anyone else. There's something. A deafening impact cut him off. The camera shook violently and the lights flickered. Mark screamed. Then for a single frame, less than 1/10 of a second, the camera caught something through the viewport. Not a fish or squid. Not anything known. A long, eel-like body, translucent skin, bioluminescent organs glowing faintly beneath it. A mouth that opened vertically instead of horizontally. And eyes. 2 of them. Huge, black, and reflective. Adapted for absolute darkness. Adapted for ambush. Adapted for the trench. The feed dissolved into static. I sat frozen, then I heard it. A faint tapping. Not from the laptop, from the window beside me. I turned slowly. The glass was dark and nothing was there. But the tapping continued, soft and deliberate, like a knuckle, like something testing a barrier. I moved inland, far inland. A cabin in the mountains of Colorado. No ocean for thousands of miles, no deep water, no trench. I told myself I was safe. For a while, I believed it. Then one night during a snowstorm, I heard it again. Tap, tap, tap. At first, I thought it was Branch hitting the window. Then I remembered the sound from the Argo, from the Nereid, from my cabin wall. I froze. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. I forced myself to look. Outside, the snow fell in thick sheets. The forest was dark. Nothing moved, but the tapping continued. Then I realized something that made my blood run cold. The tapping wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from the drain in the bathroom. I stepped towards it slowly. The tapping grew louder, faster, like fingers drumming on metal. I knelt beside the drain. The sound stopped. For a moment, then something tapped back. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. As if answering me. As if it knew I was there. As if it had followed me across the ocean, across a continent, across everything that should have kept me safe. I backed away. The pipes rattled, the drain cover shook, and then silence. I waited 1 minute, 2, 5. Nothing. I exhaled shakily. Then the drain cover slid aside by itself, and something moved in the darkness below. A long, pale shape with translucent skin, a single black eye reflecting the bathroom light, watching me, waiting, calling me back. The Mariana Trench doesn't care about you, but something in it does, and it remembers. It's patient, and it's hungry. I first heard the word Niue on the deck of the research vessel Kaimana 3 days out from the Marquesas. The sun was dropping behind a bruised wall of clouds, the sea turning the color of old iron, when our local guide, Tiva, leaned against the rail beside me. "You see how calm it is," he said. The water was glass, not a ripple, not a breath of wind. "Yeah," I said, "feels like the ocean's holding its breath." Tiva nodded once. "That's when they come up." "They?" He didn't look at me. "Niue." I'd heard the word before in passing, a Polynesian term for dangerous sharks. But the way he'd said it made the hairs on my arm lift. "What kind of shark?" I asked. He finally turned. His eyes were dark, unreadable. "Not a shark." Before I could press him, the intercom crackled, and Dr. Marin's voice called us to the lab. David pushed off the rail and walked away without another word. I watched the water a moment longer. The surface was so still it reflected the sky like a mirror. But beneath that mirror was the deepest trench in this part of the Pacific, a volcanic drop-off that plunged more than 8,000 meters. A place where the skylight never touched. A place where things evolved without ever needing to be seen. I didn't know it yet, but something down there had already noticed us. Our team was small. Dr. Marin, marine biologist and expedition lead. Jonas, submersible pilot. Teva, local guide and cultural liaison. Me, Dr. Elias Ward, oceanographer specializing in deep-sea acoustics. We were here to investigate a series of unexplained acoustic signatures recorded near the trench. Rhythmic pulses, low-frequency vibrations, something that sounded disturbingly like coordinated movement. Not whale song or seismic activity, nothing mechanical, something alive and something big. The locals had their own explanation. They said the trench was a tapu zone, forbidden, a place where the Niue hunted. I'd assumed it was folklore. I was wrong. The submersible Moana's Eye was a two-person craft cramped and cold, with a reinforced acrylic dome that gave a panoramic view of the abyss. Jonas and I climbed in just after dawn. "Ready?" he asked, flipping switches. "As I'll ever be." The crane lowered us into the water. The ocean swallowed us whole. At 300 meters, the light faded. At 600, the world turned black. At 1,000, the pressure outside the hull could have crushed a car. Jonas kept the floodlights off to conserve power. Only the instrument panels glowed. "Picking up anything?" he asked. I adjusted the hydrophone array. Static. Then a faint pulse. Thum. A second pulse. Then a third. Rhythmic, deliberate. "Something's moving," I said. "How big?" I swallowed. "Big enough that we're hearing it from over a kilometer away." Jonas whistled under his breath. We descended another 500 meters. The pulses grew louder. Thum. 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 Then the lights flickered. "Power surge," Jonas muttered. "Probably a thermal vent." But I wasn't so sure. The pulses stopped. Silence. Then something scraped the hull. A long, slow drag of something against hard metal. Jonas froze. What was that? I didn't answer. I was staring into the dark outside the dome. Something was out there. Something close. I reached for the floodlight switch. Don't, Jonas whispered. But I flicked it on. The beam cut through the black and illuminated nothing. Just empty water. But the hull vibrated again. A low, resonant hum that I could feel in my bones. Then something tapped on the dome. Once, twice, 3 times. Like knuckles. Jonas killed the lights and started the ascent. Neither of us spoke until we broke the surface. Back in the Kaimana, Dr. Meriden reviewed the sub's external camera feed. There, she said, pointing. A dark shape moved. Large, smooth, and too fast. Pause it, I said. She froze the frame. The creature was only visible for a fraction of a second. A blur of dark blue skin, a long upper jaw, and something extending from its torso. Are those fins? Jonas asked. No, Teva said quietly from the doorway. Arms. We turned. He stepped into the room, eyes fixed on the screen. You should not have gone down there. Marin crossed her arms. We're scientists. We go where the data leads. Teva shook his head. You don't understand. Niue are not like other creatures. They do not hunt because they are hungry. They hunt because they choose to. That's not how predators work, Marin said. Teva looked at her with something like pity. You think everything in the ocean follows rules you understand. He pointed to the frozen frame. That thing has never followed your rules. That night the ocean changed. The wind died, the waves flattened. The air grew heavy and still, just like the first night Teva had mentioned them. I stood on the deck listening. At first there was nothing. Then a splash. Not a wave, not a fish. Something big. I leaned over the rail. The water glowed faintly. A soft, pulsing blue light rising from the depths. Jonas, I shouted. Get up here. He ran out, half asleep. What is it? I pointed. The glow grew brighter. Then something broke the surface. A long, dark shape. Smooth skin. A jaw that jutted forward like a spear. And 2 long, muscular appendages. Arms. Unfurling from its sides. The creature rose higher. Its eyes were black. Its mouth lined with rows of needle-like teeth. Its arms ended in claw-like hands. Jonas whispered, Jesus Christ. The creature turned its head towards us. The glow intensified. Not bioluminescence. Recognition. It had seen us in the sub. It remembered. And it was curious. The creature sank beneath the surface. The glow faded in silence. Then the ship lurched violently. Something had struck the hull. Engine room, Marin shouted. We ran below deck. Water sprayed from a ruptured pipe. The hull groaned. Then another impact, this time harder. The lights flickered. Is it ramming us? Jonas yelled. No, Teva said. It's testing us. A third impact nearly knocked us off our feet. Marin grabbed the radio. Mayday, mayday. This is the Kamana. We are under attack by an unknown. The radio cut out. A long, clawed hand punched through the hull. Water exploded inwards. The hand groped blindly, feeling, searching. Jonas screamed. I grabbed him and pulled him back. as the claws scraped the floor where he'd been standing just moments ago. The hand withdrew. Then the creature struck again, higher this time. The hull buckled. "We need to abandon ship," Marin shouted. But Teva shook his head. "No. If you go under the water, you die." "Then what do we do?" I demanded. He looked at me with grim certainty. "We make the ship something it doesn't much want." "How?" "We make it loud." Teva led us to the equipment locker. He grabbed metal rods, oxygen tanks, anything that could make noise. "Hit the hull," he said. "Hard, fast, make it think we're something dangerous." We spread out across the deck. I slammed a metal rod against the railing. Jonas beat on the winch housing. Marin smashed an oxygen tank against the deck plates. The noise was deafening. The ocean responded. A low, angry hum vibrated through the hull. The creature surfaced again, glowing brighter now, agitated. It circled the ship faster and faster. Then it dove, straight down. The glow vanished. The water stilled. We kept hitting the hull until our arms burned. Finally, Tev raised a hand. "Stop." Silence. Nothing moved. The ocean was empty. For now. The Kaimana was damaged, but afloat. The engines were offline. The radio was dead. "We need to repair the generator," Marin said. "If we can get power back, we can send a distress signal." Jonas and I went below deck to assess the damage. The generator casing was dented, wiring torn, but it was fixable. "We can do this," Jonas said. "Give me an hour." "You've got 30 minutes," I said. "It'll be back before dawn." He didn't argue. We worked fast. Sparks flew, tools clattered, the hull creaked. Then a sound. A soft tapping. From outside the hull, Jonas froze. "It's back." "No," I whispered. "There's more than one." The tapping grew louder. Then a second tapping, a third, a fourth. Surrounding us. Jonas whispered. "They're feeling the hull." I killed the work light. The tapping stopped. Then a long, slow scrape. Something was dragging its claws along the metal. Jonas trembled. "We're dead." "No," I said. "Not yet." I grabbed a wrench and slammed it against the generator housing. The sound echoed through the hull. The scraping stopped. Silence. Then, retreating taps. They were leaving. Jonas exhaled shakily. "They're afraid of the noise." "No," I said. "They're cautious of it. There's a difference." We finished the repairs in record time. Back on the deck, Marin powered up the emergency transmitter. A green light blinked. "Signal's out," she said. "Now we wait." Teva stood at the rail, staring into the dark. "They won't let us leave," he said. Marin frowned. "Why not?" "Because we saw them." He turned. "The Neely do not allow witnesses." The water began to glow. Not one glow, many, dozens, circling the ship. Jonas whispered, "Oh God." Shapes rose from the depth. Long jaws, dark blue skin, arms unfurling like wings. They surrounded us. One slammed the hull, another grabbed the rudder, a third clawed at the anchor chain. The ship tilted. Marin shouted, "Get to the lifeboats." Tev grabbed her arm. "No, the water is death." But it was too late. A creature lunged from the water, arms reaching, claws extended. It grabbed Jonas. He screamed as it pulled him over the rail. I lunged, grabbing his wrist. "Hold on." His eyes were wild. "Don't let go." The creature yanked. Jonas's grip slipped. He vanished beneath the surface. The water turned red. Marin screamed. Teva pulled us back. Inside, now. We ran into the cabin and barricaded the door. The ship groaned as the creatures tore at it. Metal screamed, wood splintered, glass shattered. They're going to sink us, Marin whispered. No, Teva said. They're going to open us. The hull buckled inward. Clawed hands punched through. One creature forced its head through the breach, jaws snapping, eyes black and endless. I grabbed a flare gun and fired. The flare hit the creature's face. It shrieked, a sound like metal tearing, and recoiled. The others hesitated. Teva grabbed a second flare gun. Fire at the water, he shouted. We ran onto the deck. The creature surged towards us. We fired flare after flare. The water ignited with red light. The creature shrieked and dove. The glow faded and then silence. Then a distant thrum. A helicopter. Marin collapsed in relief. Rescue. But Teva shook his head. No, they're not gone. He pointed at the water. The glow was returning. Stronger, brighter. Dozens, maybe hundreds of them. The helicopter spotlight swept over us. A voice shouted through a loudspeaker, "Hold on, we're lowering the basket." A creature surged upward. We fired the last of the flares. The helicopter descended. The downdraft turned the water. The creatures recoiled, but only for a moment. Then they leapt. One grabbed the helicopter's landing skid. Another clawed at the basket cable. The pilot screamed over the radio, "Jesus Christ, what the hell are those?" The helicopter lurched. The cable snapped. The basket fell into the water. The creatures swarmed it. The pilot tried to ascend. The Niue leapt and grabbed the tail rotor. The helicopter spun and spun and spun and crashed into the sea. Fire erupted across the surface. The creatures dove beneath the flames. The ocean boiled with their movement. Teva whispered, "We are not leaving this place." The Kaimana was sinking. The creature circled. The fire spread. Marin looked at me, eyes hollow. "What do we do?" I stared at the burning water, at the glowing shapes beneath it, at the trench beyond, and I understood. "They're not hunting us," I said. "They're protecting something." Teva nodded. "Yes." "What?" Marin asked. He looked at the trench. The deep. A long, low hum vibrated through the water. Deeper than before. Older. The creatures froze, then dove. All of them. The glow vanished. The ocean went still. Something was rising from the trench. Something vast. Something that made the Niue flee. The water bulged, and the ship tilted. Marin screamed. Teva prayed. I stared into the rising dark and understood the truth. The Niue were not the apex predators. They were the scouts, the guards, the children, and their parent was waking. The last thing I saw before the ship went under was a single massive eye opening beneath the surface. An eye the size of a house. An eye that saw me and remembered. I'm writing this from a hospital bed in Tahiti. A fishing vessel found me drifting on a piece of wreckage 3 days after the Kamano went down. They found no one else. The officials say it was a storm, a rogue wave, a mechanical failure. They don't believe my story, but the locals do. They won't go near the trench. Not anymore. At night, when the sea is calm and the wind dies, I see a faint blue glow on the horizon. It's growing brighter and coming closer. The Neely are searching. They take what they want, and they want their witness back. I've spent most of my adult life listening to the ocean. Not the surface chatter, not the waves or the storms, not the white noise hiss that tourists think is the sea's voice. I mean the real ocean. The one below 3,000 meters, where sound travels 4 times faster than in the air, and pressure crushes steel like a cheap soda can. Down there, sound is everything. I joined the NOAA Acoustic Ecology program because I believe the deep ocean was the last place on Earth where something truly unknown could still exist. Not mythical, just undiscovered. A colossal squid variant, a new species of beaked whale, maybe even a megafauna eel. Something that made sense, but nothing prepared me for the bloop. Not the 1997 recording. That was just a hint, a whisper, a fingerprint smudged on the edge of the spectrum. What we found was the organism behind it. And I'm the only one who came back. Our vessel, the RV Keldon, was a 92-meter research ship outfitted for deep-sea acoustic mapping. We were stationed in the South Atlantic, roughly 1,800 kilometers west of Chile, a region of abyssal plains and fractured zones where tectonic plates grind like slow, ancient gears. The mission was simple. Deploy the submersible, Bathy 5, descend to 4,500 meters, and record ultra-low frequency acoustic signatures near a cluster of hydrothermal vents. The ocean was calm the morning we launched. The kind of deceptive calm that feels like a held breath. I climbed into the Bathy with my pilot, Dr. Lena Moretti, and our engineer, Harris. The hatch sealed with a metallic thud that echoed through the titanium sphere. "Comms check," Lena said. "Clear," I answered. "Clear," Harris echoed. The crane lowered us into the water. Light faded quickly, blue, then green, then nothing. The descent was smooth. The hum of the thrusters steady. 1,000 meters, the water was pitch black. At 2,000 meters, the temperature dropped to near freezing. At 3,000, the hull creaked like an old ship settling. And at 4,000 meters, the ocean swallowed us whole. "Acoustic sensors online," I said, tapping the console. The spectrogram lit up with the usual deep-sea chorus. Distant whale clicks, the faint rumble of shifting tectonic plates, the hiss of hydrothermal vents. Then something else. A low rhythmic pulse. Too deep for whales, too structured for seismic activity. Lena leaned in. "Is that?" "No," I said. "It's not the bloop. Wrong frequency." But it was close. Too close. We reached the seafloor, a barren expanse of basalt and settlement illuminated by our floodlights. The vents glowed faintly in the distance, shimmering like underwater bonfires. Harris deployed the sampling arm, collecting vent plume data. I focused on the acoustic feed. The pulse grew louder. Then it stopped. A moment later, a new sound emerged. A deep, resonant vibration that rattled the submersible. Not loud, but powerful. Like standing next to a massive speaker playing a note that you feel more than you hear. "Jesus," Harris muttered. "What was that?" I swallowed hard. "That's biological." Lena turned slowly. "You're sure?" "Positive. Seismic waves don't modulate like that." The vibration came again, longer this time. A drawn-out, mournful call that made my teeth ache. Then the spectrogram spiked. A shape appeared on the sonar. Long, curved, and moving. Contact bearing 212, Lena said. Distance 600 meters. The shape undulated across the screen. Not a whale or a squid, something larger. Something with mass distribution unlike anything catalogued. Is it approaching? Harris asked. No, I said. It's circling. The vibration came again, closer. The Bathy shuddered. Lena's voice tightened. Ascend? Not yet, I said. We need data. She shot me a look that said she disagreed, but she held the position. The sonar pinged again. The shape was now 400 meters away, then 300, then 200. Okay, I said, ascend now. Lena hit the thrusters. The creature followed. At 3,900 meters, the acoustic feed exploded with noise. A single massive pulse, the same signature recorded in 1997, but clearer, stronger, close enough to overload the sensors. The bloop, the real one. The submersible shook violently. The lights flickered. Pressure spike, Harris shouted. Something's displacing the water behind us. Lena pushed the thrusters to maximum. We're not outrunning it. The sonar updated. The creature was directly beneath us. A second pulse hit. Deeper. Angrier. The hull groaned under the pressure wave. Then the floodlights caught movement. A shadow? No. A silhouette. A massive serpentine form rising from the abyss. Not smooth like an eel. Segmented. Flexible. Its body rippled with bioluminescent nodes that flickered in patterns like Morse code. 30 meters at its longest point. Maybe more. Its head was blunt, armored, with a ridge of cartilage running down its spine. No eyes visible. Likely vestigial or unnecessary at this depth. But along its flanks, rows of photophores glowed faint blue. An apex predator adapted to total darkness. The bloop wasn't a monster. It was an evolutionary masterpiece. Holy... Harris didn't finish. The creature opened its mouth. Not wide. Just enough to reveal rows of keratinous plates. Like a baleen whale crossed with a lamprey. Designed to filter feed or strip flesh. It wasn't attacking. It was scanning us. The vibration came again. A direct pulse. It's a form of echolocation, but the frequency was too low, too powerful. It wasn't meant for small organisms. It was meant for communication across kilometers. We were being interrogated by something that communicated through pressure waves strong enough to crush bone. The hull creaked. A hairline fracture appeared on the viewport. Ascend, Lena screamed. The Bathy surged upward, and the creature followed. At 3,500 meters, the bloop accelerated. Its body moved like a ribbon in a storm, undulating with terrifying efficiency. Every motion displaced thousands of gallons of water. The sonar showed it gaining. Dump ballast, Lena shouted. Harris hit the release. The sub lurched forward. The creature pulsed again. A blast of infrasound that made my vision blur. The lights went out. We were in total darkness. Only the faint blue glow of the creature's photophores remained, swirling around us like a constellation. Then something struck the hull. Not a bite, a nudge. It was testing and probing us. The bloop wasn't hunting. It was curious. And curiosity in a 40-meter abyssal organism is indistinguishable from predation. The sub spun, equipment flew. Harris slammed into the wall with a sickening crack. Pressure integrity compromised, he gasped. Blood trickled from his nose. Another impact. The hull dented inwards. We were seconds from implosion. Emergency ascent, Lena yelled. The bathy shot upward like a bullet. The creature followed. At 1,000 meters, the water brightened slightly. The first hint of sunlight filtered down. The creature slowed. Its photophores dimmed. It released a final pulse. Softer this time. Almost disappointed. Then it sank back down into the abyss. We broke the surface minutes later. The Caledon was gone. No debris, no oil slick, just empty ocean. Radio, Lena said, voice shaking. I tried. Nothing. Static. We drifted for hours, then days. Harris died the second night from internal bleeding. On the fourth day, a Chilean fishing vessel spotted us. They hauled us on board, fed us, wrapped us in blankets. But when they asked what happened, Lena didn't speak. I did. I told them the truth. They didn't believe me. Noah debriefed us for 19 hours straight. They analyzed the Bathy's hull. They reviewed the acoustic logs. They examined the sonar data. Then they classified everything. Lena resigned. I didn't. I couldn't. Because the last thing I saw before the Bathy lost power was the creature's photophores flickering in a pattern. Not random, not indistinctive, structured. Repeating, a sequence, a message. I've spent the last 6 months decoding it. And last night, I succeeded. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a warning. It was a location. Coordinates. A point deep in the South Atlantic where the seafloor drops into a trench over 8,000 meters deep. A place we've never mapped. A place where sound goes to die. A place the ocean has kept hidden for millions of years. I submitted a proposal for a new expedition this morning. Noah approved it. We live in 3 weeks. I know what everyone thinks. That I'm obsessed, traumatized, unstable. Maybe I am. But I can't stop hearing that final pulse. Not in my ears, in my bones. The bloop wasn't alone. It was calling something. Something bigger. Something deeper. Something waiting. And I'm going back. Because the ocean didn't show us a monster. It showed us a door. And that door is still open. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please remember to hit that like button or leave a comment. And if you want to hear more from this channel and more stories that we've got written, please remember to hit that subscribe button. It'd mean a lot to us. Thank you, and have a great night.